Not a squeak, not a rattle. A deep mechanical clunk that means the transmission is done. The shop calls back 3 hours later with a number. $1,100. Sarah makes $52,000 a year. She has a job, an apartment, a decent credit score, and exactly $340 in her checking account. She's not irresponsible. She pays her bills on time. She doesn't buy fancy coffee every day like the memes love to blame. She's staring at two options: put it on a credit card at 24% interest, or miss work for 2 weeks while she figures out a ride, which might cost her the job entirely. Here's the number that should terrify you more than it does. According to Federal Reserve survey data, roughly 60% of Americans could not cover an unexpected $1,000 expense using savings alone. Not 60% of poor people, 60% of everyone. People making $40,000 a year and people making $120,000 a year, both one car repair away from a credit card spiral. My name is James, and I spend way too much time thinking about why saving money feels impossible for most people, even when they're doing everything the personal finance influencers tell them to do. If you've ever felt embarrassed that you don't have an emergency fund, despite working hard and trying your best, make sure to hit subscribe. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand this isn't a you problem. It's a math problem. And math problems have solutions. Let's kill the first myth immediately. The standard advice is just budget better. Track your spending, cut the subscriptions, skip the takeout, and boom, emergency fund. This advice isn't wrong exactly, it's just wildly incomplete. And treating it as the whole answer is why so many people try budgeting apps for 3 months and then give up, feeling like failures. Here's what the budgeting-only crowd ignores. Wages for the median American worker have grown roughly 30% since 2000, when adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, the cost of housing has more than doubled in the same window. Healthcare costs have climbed even faster. Childcare in many states now costs more per year than in-state college tuition. You can cut every latte you drink for the rest of your life, and it will not close a gap created by rent eating 40% of your paycheck instead of 25%. This is the part nobody wants to admit out loud because it's uncomfortable and it doesn't fit neatly into a 15-second video. The system got harder while the advice stayed the same. We're still telling people to follow a savings blueprint designed for an economy that doesn't exist anymore. Your grandparents could cover rent, a car payment, groceries, and still save on a single median income. That math simply does not work the same way in most cities today, and pretending it does is where a lot of the shame comes from. There's also a second myth hiding right behind the first one, and it's just as damaging. The idea that emergencies are rare. They're not. A national survey from Bankrate found that most households experience at least one unplanned expense over $500 every single year. Whether it's a car repair, a medical bill, an appliance failure, or an unexpected home repair. This isn't a once-a-decade disaster you can ignore. It's closer to a recurring bill you simply don't get advance notice for. If you're not planning for it, you're not being cautious. You're gambling. And the odds are not in your favor. But here's where it gets interesting, because income alone doesn't predict who has an emergency fund and who doesn't. Let me show you 3 people at 3 very different income levels, all one bad month away from the exact same crisis. Person 1, Alex, 28, makes $34,000 a year working retail and management. No savings. Every paycheck goes to rent, groceries, and his car payment. When his laptop died last month, he put the replacement on a store credit card at 26% interest. He's not lazy. He's working 45 hours a week. He's just never had a single month where income exceeded expenses by more than about $60. Person 2. Priya, 35, makes $89,000 a year as a marketing manager. Nice apartment, decent car, gym membership, a handful of subscriptions she forgot she has. On paper, she should be fine. In reality, her lifestyle has expanded to consume every dollar of that raise she got 2 years ago.
When her dog needed emergency surgery, the $1,400 bill went straight onto a card because her checking account had $210 in it the day it happened. Person 3. David, 47, makes $156,000 a year as a senior engineer. High income, and yet he's carrying $22,000 in credit card debt from a kitchen renovation and 2 vacations he financed instead of saved for. He assumed a high income was the same thing as financial security. It's not. It never has been. 3 completely different incomes, 3 completely identical outcomes.
That's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If income were the answer, David would be fine. He's not, because the thing that actually determines whether you have $1,000 in savings isn't how much you make. It's whether you've built a system that makes saving happen automatically before your lifestyle gets a chance to eat the difference. And this is the number I promised you earlier, the one thing separating the 40% who could handle an emergency from the 60% who can't. It's not willpower. It's not intelligence. It's automation.
The people with a buffer didn't decide to save more one heroic month. They built a system where saving happened before they ever saw the money, so there was never a decision to make in the first place. Here's the uncomfortable truth about willpower and money. Every single time you have to actively decide not to spend, you're spending mental energy, and mental energy runs out. Researchers call this decision fatigue, and it's the reason your budget survives Monday through Thursday and then completely collapses on a Friday night when you're tired and just want to order takeout instead of cooking each day. You are not weak. You're human, and humans lose willpower battles by design when the fight happens over and over every single day. The people who build an emergency fund successfully stopped fighting that battle. They removed the decision entirely. This is honestly the biggest mindset shift in this entire video, so let it sink in for a second. You are not bad with money. You were never given a system that could work.
You were handed a list of rules and told to use raw discipline to follow them forever in an environment specifically designed to make you spend. That was never a fair fight, and it was never really your fault that you kept losing it. Think about how much of your daily environment is quietly built to override your willpower. The one-click checkout button, the buy now, pay later option sitting right next to the total at checkout, the app that notifies you the moment something you looked at goes on sale.
None of that is an accident. Entire industries employ behavioral scientists whose full-time job is finding new ways to make saving feel harder and spending feel effortless. You're not just fighting your own impulses. You're fighting a system engineered by people who get paid specifically to beat you. Once you see it that way, the shame starts to make a lot less sense, and the solution starts to look a lot more obvious. You don't beat an automated system with more willpower. You beat it with a better automated system of your own. So let's talk about how you actually build the $1,000 buffer, step by step, in an order that works even if your income looks more like Marcus than David. Step 1. Open a savings account at a completely different bank than the one your checking account lives in. This sounds small. It is not small. Friction is your ally here. If your emergency fund is one tap away inside the same app you check every day, you will dip into it the first time you're tempted.
If it takes an extra login at a bank you barely think about with a 2 or 3 day transfer delay, you won't. That delay is a feature, not a bug. It gives your brain time to catch up before your hand catches up with your wallet.
Step 2. Automate a transfer of whatever you can genuinely afford, even if that number embarrasses you. $20 a week. $10 a week. It does not matter. The goal in month 1 is not the amount. The goal is proving to yourself that the system works without you having to think about it. Confidence gets built through repetition, not through some dramatic, all-at-once savings sprint that burns you out by week 3. Step 3. Find your $100. Nearly everyone, regardless of income, has at least one subscription they forgot about, one recurring charge that quietly renewed, or one convenience app tax that drains more than they realize. Studies on subscription spending consistently find that the average person underestimates their own monthly subscription total by well over $150. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You need to find $100 a month hiding in plain sight and redirect it before you even miss it. Step 4. Every time unexpected money shows up, a tax refund, a work bonus, a birthday gift, 50% of it goes straight into the buffer before you even consider what else to do with it. This single habit alone gets most people to $1,000 faster than any spreadsheet ever will, because it doesn't compete with your regular monthly budget at all. It's money you never planned around in the first place. Step 5. And this is the one almost nobody talks about. Once you hit that first $1,000, do not touch it for anything except an actual emergency. Define emergency in writing before you have one. Car repair, medical bill, job loss, essential home repair. Not a sale, not a concert, not a good deal that shows up in your inbox. Writing the rule down before the temptation shows up removes the willpower fight entirely, because you already decided on a calm day instead of a tempting one. And calm day you makes much better decisions than tempted Friday night you. There's one more piece of the automation puzzle that most people never think to use, and it's sitting right inside your paycheck. Most employers let you split your direct deposit across multiple accounts. Not just a manual transfer you have to remember, an actual split set once that happens before the money even lands in your checking account for the first time. If you can send even 3% of every paycheck straight into that separate savings account before you ever see it, you've essentially made yourself unable to spend money you never had access to in the first place. This is the single most powerful move in this entire video, and it takes about 5 minutes to set up with your HR department or payroll system. Once you've built that first $1,000, don't stop, and don't panic about what comes next either. The next milestone isn't some overwhelming 3 to 6 months of expenses number that finance content loves to throw around. That number is real, and it matters eventually, but it's not where you start. Your next target is simply $2,000, then $3,000, using the exact same system that got you to the first 1,000. The habit doesn't change. Only the number on the screen does. This is where compound momentum kicks in, because by the time you're building toward $3,000, the automated transfer that once felt like a sacrifice has quietly become something you don't even notice leaving your account anymore. Here's what changes the moment you actually hit that $1,000 mark, and it's not just the number in the account. Something shifts psychologically the first time an unexpected bill shows up, and you don't panic. You just pay it. No spiral, no credit card, no 3 sleepless nights doing math in your head, wondering which bill you're going to have to let slide this month. That calm
is the entire point. The money is just the mechanism that gets you there. Let's go back to Sarah for a second. Same $1,100 transmission bill, same $52,000 salary. But imagine a version of Sarah 6 months into this system. She's got $1,000 sitting untouched in a separate account she barely thinks about. The mechanic calls with the same bad news. She pays $1,000 straight from savings, puts the remaining $100 on a card she pays off in 2 weeks, and goes to work the next morning like nothing happened. Same emergency, same income, completely different Tuesday. That's the entire difference between the 60% and the 40%. It was never about being smarter or making more money. It was about whether the system worked automatically or whether it depended on willpower every single week in a world that's constantly testing that willpower on purpose. If this explained why saving has felt impossible, even when you've genuinely tried, that's exactly the kind of thing we break down every week around here. So go ahead and hit subscribe. And if you want the deeper breakdown on exactly how we script and research videos like this one, the community link is in the description. No pressure. It'll be there whenever you're ready. Start with the separate account. Start with whatever number doesn't feel impossible, even if it's $5 a week. The 60% didn't get there because they're bad with money. They got there because nobody ever showed them the system. Now you have it. Use it. Starting today, not someday.